there is a very similar pattern that you find in the structure of societies, in the structure of companies, and in the structure of computers. And all three are moving in the same direction. That is, away from a top-down structure of a central command system, giving the system instructions about how to behave, towards a system that is parallel, that is flat, which is a web, and which change moves from the bottom up.
If you have a free society, the tools and techniques appropriate to that will be of a certain kind. Not a certain kind in the sense that there'll be high technology or low technology. There'll be a certain kind in the sense that they can be developed and deployed and maintained by the people involved, so that just as their politics is participatory, so is their material base.
And I'm quite interested in taking what accelerationism can give me and using it as the basis of developing a feminist politics. What that might look like or involve is still kind of being sort of formalized and being thought about. But I'm looking back to a lot of techno-feminism from Schuller-Myth, Firestone onwards. A lot of really strong feminist thinkers who've been thinking about what sort of technology, particularly automation and cybernation, in various spheres can do for us. So there's been work addressing the rise of industrial technologies and the way that cybernation and automation in the industrial sphere can lead to greater instability, higher unemployment, but may also function as a tool for the elimination of drudgery. And then this has been applied to the domestic sphere, to the feminist household. And then also, I mean, with Schuller-Myth Firestone in particular, she's very famous for her work in terms of reimagining reproduction. So thinking about how technology can liberate women from the tyranny of their own biology, as she controversially calls it.
Well, I think on the one hand, technology has an extremely liberatory potential. Valdemar brought up 3D printers earlier, and this is a way to really save labor around the world. You bring these to very rural areas and allow them to industrialize, if they choose to, in a truly autonomous way without being reliant on multinational corporations. New forms of energy, renewable wind and solar energy and water-based energy really allow people to decentralize and take community control and ownership over how energy is produced. Free and open source software and also just open source knowledge in general is extremely exciting to me. The idea that we can introduce new technologies, new medicines without companies holding them hostage with patents and copyrights. I think that can be extremely liberatory. On the other hand, I'm very wary of what we in the climate justice movement call techno-fixes. The idea that we can just solve global warming, for example, by injecting toxic chemicals in the ground in order to extract more methane gas, or splitting atoms in order to turn a turbine and relying therefore on nuclear power, or blowing up mountains to get so-called clean coal.
You wouldn't have had this development without capitalism, but capitalism leads to a point where its own inventions create a tension with its institutions. And I think you can see something like this happening today if you look at questions of so-called intellectual property, especially on the internet. We have a situation where the digital technologies the last 20 or 30 years have led to cheap, almost extremely cheap, multiple copying of anything that's digitized, music, images, words, and at the same time we have a very censorious regime of insists on copyright, insists on locking down all these things with things like digital rights management, and taking something which has actually become plentiful and abundant and easily transferable and easily multipliable and putting in fetters, not allowing you.
I think that the new privileged will be those who will be able to regulate digital space without themselves being fully included into this space. I think that a serious threat of this digitalization. Yes?
I was going to say, you could almost argue that now. There are some nations that are very much a digital underclass, aren't there?
Yeah, but even they are more and more, even if they know, even third world nations, they are already controlled. But what interests me is that, are we aware that in this way a new class division will appear? much stronger than the old class division envisaged by Marxist theory. A division between those who are just controlled and those who can regulate these modes of digital control, these modes themselves. That will be the new class division.
So is it just down to literally...
biologically new classes.
Is it literally down to who controls it then? Because you've said before that technology opens doors to both enslavement and to freedom. Is it that you'd be quite okay with this technology, that progress is progress, that there may be an inevitability to this kind of progress for humanity, but it's just a question of who's got their finger on the button?